There we go. Sorry, I was having some issues with the with my system here, but looks like I got everything sorted out. Some of my USB devices were like, "We're not going to work today." That's why I was under my desk. I was trying to get everything straightened out. So, well, it's Monday again. How's everybody doing? I'm gonna put my I'll jump into Teams here. Just in case someone calls in. I think this will be the last one we're going to do with Teams because no one seems to be using it. So we're going to go ahead and just leave it for this one here, and then we will go ahead and just do text chat because I feel like that's where everybody wants to ask questions. So I know someone's going to ask it, so I'm gonna show right here, because this is my project for today. I have to put it back together. Oh, it looks like I broke it when it was in my garage, but it's okay, it'll work. I broke my little LCD mount because this has been sitting on the floor in my garage for a while. But I gotta get my Stream Deck out. Come on. Oh no, it's like stuck under my microphone. Hang on. I don't know how that happened. I cleaned up yesterday, so that's probably how that happened. My Stream Deck was all tied up under the desk here. So anyways, I am working on the X1 today with the Easy ABL setup. So I got my screen here, and I've got my probe mount here, which will get put between the this little fan here and the mount. So basically these two screws will pop out, and then this will go behind there. The fan sits in there nicely, and then the probe will be right here. So what I'm still ironing out and finalizing is the cable mounting of all of the sensor wire for the Easy ABL, because they have ribbon cables here, so we can't route it with like a traditional PTFE Bowden setup, or even a hot end that has wires going to it already. So, but because I got this nice big gantry extrusion here, I'll be able to use some clips to secure it to that gantry and then route it down. And there will be a video showing exactly where to put the clips, how to route it, that kind of stuff. And there'll be printable clips, so nothing extra to buy. You can just print them on your own, and that'll be it. And you will need the LCD conversion to use this with it, because they are using that that older MKS serial TFT that doesn't allow us to do much with. It's just sending and receiving G-code commands. That's all it's doing. So, and as far as I know, I haven't seen any firmware for those screens to make them so Marlon has more control over them. I know the people have been trying to get different stuff working on them so you can get more functionality out of them, but as of right now, as I'm talking to you, I'm not aware of one. So let's see who's in chat. So guys, start posting your questions if you have any questions in chat about your printer or recommendations or upgrades, whatever you want. Let me know. And if you want to call in or jump in on like a video, you can do so by going to asktim.th3dstudio.com. I don't frequent Twitter, so I'm not up on the latest printing drama dubbed out. Let's see here. Okay, so let's go through and do a roll call here. So we got David Wilson, we got Jerry from 3D Printing and Painting, TJ Dorman, R. Mills, Permanently Patriotic, what's up? Yeah, I know you're a regular. R. Mills is, I know you're fairly regular here. Alan Samosh, you're completely lost? Well, I was too, trying to figure out why my damn USB cables wouldn't work. But we're good now. It was one cable on one of my hubs that looked like it was plugged in, but it was just a hair, and it was messing up. Alan says, happy customer from Mexico. Solid bed mounts don't want to work on the solid bed mounts. The solid bed mounts don't want to work on Ender 5 Plus or Ender 5 or Ender 3 Pro with X gantry reassembled. I don't know what you mean by that. Did you order the right bed mounts? Because the solid bed mounts fit both of those machines. You just take the springs off, and that they do have a strain relief on. I can't remember if the Ender 5 Plus has one or not, because I've since changed mine over. But you put the strain relief in the corner where your wires are, and then you put the round pieces in the other corners, and then just gently tighten them down. Don't crank them down, because depending on what printer you have, Creality likes to put traces close, and you can punch the solid bed mount through the traces and could damage the bed. So just finger tight, throw some Loctite on it, and call it a day. Let's see here. The Ender 3 V2, Adrian wants to know where we're at on the Ender 3 V2 Easy AVL runout sensor. So we're going to be able to do it. I just haven't had time to actually test it on that machine. I did test it on the same board that it uses, so in theory it should work. Actually, I might have... Hang on. I'm getting deja vu here, because I feel like I might have already done that. I need to look at our firmware here. Oh, you know what? It might also be in the next release, because I have a testing firmware that I'm prepping to release, and that might be the one I'm thinking of, is that it's in there. Hang on, I'm checking right here. Easy out on the Ender 3. Yeah. So it'll be supported in the next firmware release 2.1. I was gonna say, I'm like, wait, I thought I did actually test that. Because it's just on the testing branch. So 2.10 is the official release, the latest official release from us for our Unified 2. 2.11 is going to bring 8-bit support, and that's what's holding this up. And what I'm wrapping up this week is I have to finish documentation on our help center for using it with the 8-bit boards, covering serial port detection, because the auto detect doesn't always work if you have multiple COM ports like I do. Like I've got a thing that controls my TV, that's a COM port. I've got a management port, I've got an actual physical COM port on my board, that's another COM port, and then two of my test equipments here connect to my computer over USB, and those also show up as COM ports. So my computer has 3 to 4 COM ports at any given time, and Platform IO doesn't auto detect the board. So I'm assuming there's going to be people that have that same thing where they have other devices that have COM ports, and it's not going to auto detect. So I'm going to go through how to actually determine what port your printer's on, and then setting that port manually in your Platform IO file, so it automatically then, well, not automatically, but then it successfully updates your board to the correct COM port. Let's keep going here. Michael, hi, Tim. I had a fan failure in my Ender 3. I replaced the fan, but I'm having extrusion issues, or under extruding issues. Michael, do you have, what did you put on there? Because if you put too slow of a fan on, then you're going to get heat creep. If you listen to random people on Facebook and bought a Noctua, that's more than likely your issue. That's why we don't sell Noctuas, because the ones that are the 4010 size, which is what fit in the stock printer shroud, they don't move enough air to keep that heatsink cool for most people. So people will replace them, and they get heat creep and cause more issues. If you went with like our fan 100% for sure works, a 24 volt 40 millimeter fan that we carry. That's been tested. It has plenty of airflow. It's not super loud. It's not as quiet as a Noctua, but when you're moving air, it makes noise. It's just how physics works. But I've seen many people that change their fan to Noctuas, and then they start getting heat creep because they don't move enough air. You need air to cool the heatsink. And if you cut the airflow down, your heatsink doesn't get cool. So if you see me like this, where I'm just kind of gazing off, I'm looking at the chat on my screen right now. I don't know. I don't see, did Michael... Yeah, so that's what I was asking. It depends on what fan, because that's a different answer depending on what fan you have. So, assuming you bought the correct fan, you got the 24 volt, although if you got the wrong one, then it'd be spinning way too fast, which wouldn't cause heat creep. But I digress. We've had people that have ordered 12 volt fans, put them on there, and surprisingly, the fans don't burn up. They just run really fast. But under extrusion, there's a PTFE fix. by One Bad Marine on Thingiverse. And his name is Luke Hatfield. And he is an awesome guy. You guys may have seen him in some of the Creality groups. But you want to check out... Oh, I just switched to the wrong one. Main Mon, this is what I was looking for. So this one here is what you want to check out. This is PTFE fix. And basically what happens is your PTFE tube is likely not far enough down into the hot end, and there's a gap between the PTFE tube and the nozzle, which will then result in under extrusion because you got this pool of filament happening here, and it's not fully molten. It's also not fully cooled. That's what I'd be checking here, and then making sure your PTFE fitting is actually holding the filament. The PTFE fittings like to fail a lot on the Creality machines. They use lower quality ones, and I feel like they've gotten a little better over the years, but we still sell a ton of replacement fittings, so I am going to assume that people's are still failing. But that's one of the number one issues with the Creality machines, is because of that hot end design. When they assemble it, they don't always put it down in all the way, or they didn't cut it flush. Another thing could be that if you have a stock, if your extruder is stock, what happens is those cheap plastic arms that they use on those extruders, they crack, and then you don't get enough tension, and then you get under extrusion. So check to make sure your arm isn't cracked. If it is cracked, we do actually carry replacement extruders here that are like 20 bucks, and these are a drop-in replacement for your Creality machines that have this style extruder. It's just a direct replacement. It's all metal, and it's a great little extruder. It's affordable, and it's got plenty of tension. So you don't ever have to worry about this arm cracking on you. So could be a number of things. Check the hot end. Check the extruder. You're never going to have to replace the whole hot end. The hot end is just a bunch of parts, and most of the time it's that those parts aren't assembled correctly. So, let's see here. Let me scroll back up. Vernon says, my Banshee looks like it was sandblasted. I'm assuming your print. You can send a picture. Actually, if you guys do want to send a picture of something, if you go to discord.th3dstudio.com, there is a live streams channel. So if you go to our Discord server here, there's a live streams channel here on the right, or the left, sorry, and you can post pictures and stuff in here. So if you want me to see something, you can post it in there, and then I can see it, because YouTube doesn't allow you to post links. Derek, if I get a 0.9 stepper, God, why do people keep doing this fad? Do I need to increase the step count? Yes, you need to double it, but you're not going to see a huge difference going to 0.9 or any at all. I didn't when I tried it on a couple machines. It's just something. It's one of those things people are doing just to do it because they saw someone on Facebook doing it. You also get less torque too, so you might have to up your VREFs on your drivers too, because your smaller step angle doesn't have as much holding torque as a larger step angle. So if those of you guys that don't know, your stock motors are a 1.8 degree step angle on the motors, and they work great. So, but people think that just because they up the motor to a higher resolution motor, that they're going to get better prints. The reality is, while it's technically on paper better, you're not going to see a difference. So, and I've have like 10.9 motors just floating around here because I bought them, put them on a printer, tested, didn't see any difference, and I'm just taking them back off to go to stock because I didn't want to have to keep remembering to change the steps on that particular machine. Oh, Dub Dowd said something with Naomi and Pooch. He wasn't going to CR30. I did hear about the tinfoil hat guy getting a CR30, which is wild. So, I mean, it's interesting. I'm not going to back it on Kickstarter. I'm going to wait for it to actually come out. Let's see here. Joshua says, I have a Raspberry Pi 3 on my CR10S4 with Octoprint. Replace the board with the easy board. My biggest annoyance is having to reconnect Octoprint after a power loss. Any suggestions? You're just going to have to reconnect it. because our board is properly set up where it won't pull power from the USB unless you specifically move that jumper over. And that jumper should only be moved over if you're like working on it on the bench, never in your printer. It should always be on VREF. That's just how it is. If you're having that much power loss, I would recommend getting a battery backup. That's actually a suggestion. It's a legitimate suggestion. Get a battery backup. Put your printer on a battery backup. Every single machine here, and I'm not exaggerating, every single machine is on a battery backup here. Michael Hill says he updated his monoprice Microsoft V2 to get thermal protection on it. Good move. Their firmware's terrible too. I think they're using some weird repetier. But God, I have a monoprice Microsoft V2 here, and dear God, the firmware was terrible on it. Besides the manual Z adjuster and print, anything else your firmware adds? I mean, you're just getting a newer version. Getting a little more tunability with what you can actually do. You can change your steps per millimeter. You can do adjustments. You can add on bed leveling. But the main thing is the thermal protection is huge. Steiner says, any advice for a stock X5S upgrade? Throw it in the trash. I'm not even joking. The X5S, I ended up getting rid of. It was a hard call because I wanted to like it, and I did for a while, but the acrylic parts they use on it kill the machine. I would not put a ton of money into that machine because like its core parts are not that great. You can try to print ones, but I ended up giving it to a friend of mine because I was just tired of dealing with it. I wouldn't put a ton of time and money into an X5S. I'm assuming you're talking about the Tronxy because that's the only one I know off the top of my head is the X5S. JM, we're not selling the HeroMe Gen 5 parts because it's too complicated of a system. Which reminds me, I have to follow up with him on some other stuff we were working on. Let's see here. Terrorize says, is there a reason that sometimes the IP address shows up when the EasyPie installs, sometimes it does not? This is on a Creality S5. Also, I've never seen the IP address show up my Under 5 Plus. So what happens is when there's a plugin on the EasyPie, that when it connects, it sends its IP address. So if for some reason you didn't have the network cable plugged in or it wasn't connected to the network when it connected, it's not going to send the IP address. Also, if like the printer has been disconnected for a while, that plugin I noticed doesn't send the IP address if it's like been idling for a while. I don't know why, but I have seen that behavior as well. Let's see. When am I doing the KP3S? I want to try to do that later this week. I have machines like this that have been sitting here for way too long that need to get done. After this, I'm pulling the Anycubic i3 Mega out and starting to work on that. So these will be pushed into the new Unified 2. R. Mills says, on the Creality extruder do you have a hard time feeding in the filament? Only if I don't straighten it out, and that's with most extruders. If you don't straighten the filament out, like it comes curved off the roll, just take your fingers and like bend it flat and then stick it in. That's all I do when I feed them in. And then obviously press the lever down. So press the lever down, push the filament in, and then you're good. And it helps a lot in general with any extruder if you straighten the filament out before you insert it. And when you cut the filament, cut it at a 45-degree angle. I can actually show you. Let me grab a little piece of filament here. So when you're loading and unloading filament here, and this video I need to rotate. Hang on, transform, rotate. There we go. Now it's what I'm looking at. All right. So when you pull your filament off the roll, it's got this natural curve to it. Okay. So let's say I'm about to feed this end into my printer, okay? And when you cut it, you don't want to cut it flat like that, okay? You want to take it, let me see, I'm going to push this up a little bit and zoom in here. So when you cut your filament, you don't want a flat end, okay? What is going on with my headphones? I'm sorry if there's background noise there. So, anyways, when you cut your filament, you don't want a flat end on this. This is hard to feed in through the whole filament path. What you want to do is take your flush cutters, okay? Put them at an angle like this. And then cut it like that. So you have this like 45-degree angle on here. This will make it a lot easier to feed in. Now, before you feed it in too, because you have this natural bend, here's what I do. I take my fingers and I go like this. Oh, look at that. This has been sitting out for a bit. So I got a little crack there. But just take your filament and do this. So now, instead of it being curved, it's more straight, and you can do it a couple times. But usually, once I do this, it's good. And then, like I said, that snapped. So if I was going to feed this in, I cut it again at an angle, not flat. So this is a really good tip for loading your film into your printer with a lot smoother path. So let's see here. What else? Egbert says, thanks for all the work you do for the community. Do you know of an aluminum bed replacement for a Sidewinder X1 that already has magnets in place for a removable bed? I do not. Isn't this? Oh, this is a glass one, isn't it? Oh yeah, this is a glass one. This is like the TiVo Tornado, which my bed on that cracked a couple times. So I would just see if you can find a machine shop or something that can get you a plate. I don't know of anybody that sells an aluminum bed replacement. You're probably going to be stuck buying another one and then putting a magnet on it. This actually has a really old flex plate on it. That's how long I've had this. So you can see here, this is one of our real old plates. It doesn't even have a tab on it. And I have an easy mat on it. So, but that bed is 310 by 310. If you're wondering about size. Alan says, I'm new to 3D printing, recently flashed created one with 4 board with bug fix with TMC 22A drivers set, but on changing the board, I think the chips are 4999s. Yeah, those are 4988s, sorry. Is the board scrapped now? No, just update the firmware and with the correct driver type. We have Marlin 2 for that. It's on the test. And it looks like we have someone in here. Let me screen this guy real quick and see who this is. So give me 1 sec. Okay, well it was just blank. All right, well screw we'll just not do teams. Okay, bye teams. Post your guys' questions in chat. I feel like this is easier. Let's see. Most important question: what's your dog's name? Clara. Her name is Clara. Clara, come here. See those big ass ears right there? Yeah, you. Come here. Come. Come. Let's see. Do you have any techniques for consistent belt tensioning? It depends on the printer. Some printers have a little adjustment that you just turn, and other ones you have to like loosen up some bolts and move an idler. It really depends. So there's not a really easy question for that. I usually put the belts tension to a point where if you kind of give them a little pluck, they kind of reverberate for a little bit or vibrate. You don't want them to have what's the word I'm looking for? You don't want them to have slop, because then your prints are going to look weird. She's tired. I'm sorry I woke you up. You can go back and lay down. It's okay. Oh, now you want my attention? Anyways, so yeah, one thing, today's project is the X1, so hopefully I get that wrapped up, and then I have to record a video on it. So there will be a video on how to actually install the Easy ABL on there, as well as new firmware for that one. That'll probably be actually one of the, well, it'll be the second board that's an 8-bit that'll be rolling into the new Unified 2. Because I'm not going to be doing any more updates to Unified 1. We're going to move machines over from Unified 1 to Unified 2, so we only have one distribution to maintain. Dr. Drago, any yeah, I asked about the EasyBoard Pro. We have prototypes, just doing testing. Got a lot of cool stuff planned for that, and just making sure we're selling you guys something that works. I mean, I could do like some other companies and just sell you guys stuff that kind of works and then have you beta test. But that's not how we roll here. Oh god, Aaron says he has a question. Oh yeah, everybody, Aaron got engaged over last week when he was on his vacation. So Aaron is our general manager here, so congratulations to Aaron. What do you call a fat psychic? Is this a dad joke? A medium large or something? A fortune teller? Okay, I'll give that to you. Vince, that's the same. The EasyBoard Pro is going to be our 5 driver. We're not going to be doing a more than 5 driver, just because I don't think there's a big market for it. If you guys are looking for a nice board that's more than 5 drivers, Duet has a lot of offerings. And you guys post some more questions, otherwise I'm going to find something to ramble on about. How do you test for a bad thermistor cartridge style? Well, it's the same type, so let me show you. Let me grab some parts here. I know I've hot-end parts in here somewhere. Here, there. Okay, so let's go over how to test this. Good question. All right. Permanently Patriotic did post his picture, so I'm gonna show him. He's got this AR grip he's trying to print, and he's getting these bumps on it. Let's see here. So these almost look like your printer's pausing. Are you printing over USB? This looks like what happens when Octoprint is stuttering. I would say slow down your print speed a little bit. You could be printing too fast, especially if an 8-bit board. You definitely want to slow that down. But one other thing could be what's the word I'm looking for? Crap, I lost my train of thought. One other thing could be that it's slowing down. If you're printing off SD, you could have a bad SD card. Yeah, it could be Cura too. There's I think we have an article in our help center about this, about blobs. Happens on both. What are you using to slice? Sean Youth is asking, let me switch back over here before I go to testing. I'm going to show you guys how to test the resistances on your I got a heater and thermistor here. I'm going to show you guys how to test that stuff. All you need is a multimeter. And I'm using a really cheap multimeter because I know everybody doesn't have fancy ones. Let's see here. Does the EasyBoard have the power failure resume feature? It's in the firmware. It's not something we advertise that is there. It's in Marlin, so yes, it technically does, but I do not recommend using it because it will basically just keep writing your SD card over and over and over again. So I do not recommend you use that feature. But you can edit the source code and put that in if you want to, but it's not an officially supported thing because I don't want to be getting emails from people saying, hey, your board killed my SD card. So one of the guys posted in Discord, maybe I should do this. This is good. You guys, he posted HD Tech K. I don't know who he is in YouTube chat. Posted a link to this little like ribbon cable breakout board. I don't know I don't know how many pins the CR10 is. Or CR10S Pro, I should say. But he sent this. Yeah, this actually would work to break out the pins if you're trying to get rid of the board on your CR10S Pro and go to something else, because then you just get a bunch of breakouts here. That's a very intuitive idea. If I believe it's a 30-pin cable on the CR10S Pro, so 15 pins each. If it is, then something like this, if you got the right pin count, it looks like they got a bunch of different ones, 17, 20, 25. Yeah, you would just have to figure out what pin is what on these little things. It's a good find. I might have to get one of those. Maybe I'll do a video on it. Ben Brady says a 40 pin, so that would be 2x20. So, which they do also have here. I'll have to check. I have one here still. But this would be a really good, simple, off-the-shelf way to break out the pins on your CR10S without having to cut the thing up. I would do that. I would give it a shot. I don't think that's a bad idea. Yeah, so Permanently Patriotic saying he's using Cura. Here we go. I knew we had a Help Center article on it, so let's go to the TH3D Help Center. Zits or blobs on my print. Slicer related. Cura. There's a step-by-step guide here. I don't know what version of Cura this was done, but it should be similar. There's step-by-step guides. Simplify 3D. You can also change stuff. Prusa Slicer as well. Here's a video here linked from CNC Kitchen. And here's talking about the Octoprint. So we literally have a whole thing here on what to check to get rid of blobs and zits on your machine. And I'll post that in chat here. There you go. Let me just scan chat one more time, and then we're going to go over testing your heater cartridge and your thermistors. So give me 1 second. Let me just go through here. So we did 0, Cura. What type of EX plug type? What type of EX plug type? I don't know what you mean by EX plug type. Would you recommend for thermistors, heater cartridge, and fan connectors? I am not a fan of putting additional. I'm assuming you're talking about adding additional connectors by your thermistor and fans and heaters and stuff by your hot end. That's not something you should be changing out a lot. That's one more point of failure that you're adding into the chain of things. So I wouldn't recommend doing that. If you have to change your heater cartridge or something, snip the wires, strip them, splice them, solder them, heat shrink them. And remember to put the heat shrink on before you solder. I've done that so many times. Let's see. Vince is trying to convert your printer to an IDEX. Like I said, I would check out, if you need a 6 driver, check out Duets. I know a lot of guys. I haven't used Duets aside from when I had the Dauntless here. It's actually with Joe right now from Project R3D. He's doing some upgrades on it to bring it up to the retail version. But they use that with the expansion board, and he really likes it. Am I going to get a print mill from Creality? Once they become available for actual sale, not Kickstarter, I will be getting one just to play with it. Easy ABL with glass bed. Yes, easy ABLs work on glass bed. No issues there. Let's see here. Kurt Shaw is saying the 10S Pro is a 30 pin, Raspberry Pi is 40 pin. So just count the pins, see how many pins it is. I don't have one here, otherwise I would literally be going and counting one here, but it's in the shop, and I don't want to walk all the way out there in the middle of the stream and leave you guys hanging. All right, so if you guys want to post questions in chat, you can, and I will come back to them. So we're going to switch over to my bench here, and I'm going to show you guys how to test your thermistor and heater wires. So on your printer, you usually have wires here. Now ignore the tape on here. This is, I use this for testing, so I have some exposed here for when I clamp leads on for the oscilloscope. But this is just to emulate a hot end. And I was very, very lazy, just threw some Kapton on it, and I heat this up to, I don't know, 100, 200 C when I'm testing boards. I digress. So, but I have a thermistor and a heater cartridge here. This is what goes into your heater block on your hot end, okay? So these are the wires you see sticking out. They'll usually be coming up like this. So at the other end, sometimes you'll have, usually for your thermistor, you'll have a 2-pin plug like this. Am I still on? Am I on autofocus or focus? Okay, we're on autofocus. So you'll usually have a 2-pin JST on them. That's usually what most of these have. And usually your thermistors are 100K. So refer to your printer's information, but most of them are 100K resistance. So what you want to do to test it, so you see on my multimeter here, this is just a really cheap one. I've had this for years. I just use this for testing random crap when I don't need super precision. But you can see here 200K. So what these mean are, if I put this on 20K and I'm measuring something that's 100K, it's just going to zero out because it's too high. So this sets the range. So this is up to 20K of resistance. This is up to 200K resistance, and so on and so forth. 2,000 ohms, 200 ohms, etc., etc. So I'm going to put this on 200K here, and then I'm going to take my probe leads and touch them to these 2 pins that are on the thermistor. Now this thermistor should be working. Kind of hard and fiddly to do. But you touch it to the 2 pins here, and you can see there I'm reading right around 108. Now the cool thing is, if I can hold this, I'm going to put my finger on this. These might be... precision leads. Alright. So most leads will not fit into the plug like this. These are just very, very high precision ones. But if you notice, as I'm touching, as I touch the thermistor and I heat it up, the resistance drops. So that's how thermistors work on these machines. They change the resistance based on their heat. Versus I have my cold glass of water here. If I put this, I'm going to put this in the ice water. Look at the resistance. So I took it out of the ice water. Let me warm it back up. So there you go. You can see it's warming back up. Sorry, the mic is like off to the side. My apologies. So anyways, basically, depending on the temperature of your room, if you're reading anywhere between 80 to 100K on your thermistor, you can usually assume that it's good. One thing I like to do is I'll put the leads on there, and then I'll move the wires around and make sure the resistance doesn't change, because if you're moving the wires around and the resistance changes, then what happens, what that means is there's something in the wiring that's screwing up. And I realized why my audio is low, because Teams screwed with it again. This is why I stopped using Teams. There we go. We should be much better now. Teams messes with my audio all the time. It like puts the gain down. So anyways, the heater's the same way. So you got these 2 wires. These usually go to your board, and they're usually bare wires. So all you do is touch one on here, one on there, Hang on. Oh, is this heater bad? Oh, wait. I'm an idiot. So, you gotta set it down. Totally forgot. So, now I set it to 200 because this is a 40-watt heater cartridge. So, if it's 12 volts, it'll be like 15, 14 ohms. And if it's 24 volts, it'll be 15, 14. If it's 12, it'll be like 4 or 5. I can't remember which one this is. So, this is a 24-volt heater cartridge. So, we're reading like 13.5. So, leads on each of the wires. And that's also how you can determine if it's a 12-volt heater or a 24-volt heater. The 12-volt heater has a much lower resistance than a 24-volt. So this is a 24-volt. Now, since we know that's 13.4 ohms, if you're not sure how many watts it's going to pull, you can actually put into an Ohm's law calculator and get an approximate value. So if you just Google Ohm's law calculator, this is the one I use. So if I know I'm doing 12 volts and that resistance was 13.4, oh, I'm only gonna get 10 watts here. Okay. Oh God. So I'm starting to use what's it called? Edge for when I do streams, so like it's separate and there's like no random search history popping up. There we go. So if I put this on a 12-volt printer, okay, I'm only going to get about 10 watts of heat. Now let's get rid of this and let's put it on a 24-volt machine. Look at that, we're right around 40 watts. So that's how you can determine. So you can also do the inverse. So if you want to know what a 12-volt would be, to get a rough idea, you can also plug in these. You got to provide two values, okay? So you can see here, a 12-volt would be right around a resistance of 3.6. So there's obviously going to be some fluctuation from the manufacturing tolerances, but in my experience, it's within an ohm or two of what you would think it would be. So like a 24-volt, 40-watt, you're going to be right around 14.4. You saw the one that we measured was 13.4, which is a little lower, which gives us 42.9. So 3 more watts. But you're going to have these variations in these heater cartridges. Not every single one is exactly the same. So the TLDR is you just put your meter on the correct value. If you notice, when I switched from measuring the thermistor to the heater cartridge, it just read nothing. And that's because the range was set too high. So I had this on the 200K setting for measuring the thermistor because it's 100K. And then I had to put it on 200, which is the lowest one for my hot end. So if you have a hot end one you're measuring, if your meter has a 20 setting for the ohms, 20 ohm setting, use that. If it's got, like mine, this one only goes down to 200, then use that. But that's all you need. This is why I say you need a multimeter. But if you have a 3D printer, you can use it to measure the voltage on your machine. You can use it to do testing to see if like a wire actually has continuity. You can measure resistances. This one was literally like $10 from Home Depot. Okay, like go to a store and buy a cheap multimeter. You don't need to buy a $100 one or a $50 one or even a $30 one. Just get a cheap multimeter and keep it in your toolbox. If you have a 3D printer, you should own a multimeter. So, I know I started late because I was dealing with my computer here, so I will keep going for a little while longer as long as you guys have questions. Does anybody have any other questions? I am going to pop back in chat here and see. There's a couple here. Tim, I got an MCAS S Gen LV2 with 2209s. They didn't have 2208s. If I use mechanical end stops, will it be the same precision as 2208? Yeah, the 2208s and 2209s, aside from the 2209s run a little cooler, they're a little more efficient. And the 2209s have that stall guard, which is what is used for the sensorless homing. They're identical. Oh, sorry. And the 2209s can have a higher amperage output capability. You're not going to use it. But aside from being able to put out higher amps, having that stall guard, there's no difference between 2208s and 2209s. They're going to run exactly the same. You're the same print quality, same precision. They're interchangeable for the most part. Theo says hello from the Netherlands. Hello. I don't know what time it is over there, but I feel like it's going to be an off time. What is the place where I can send you a picture? Discord. Here, I'll post a direct link to that channel. So Discord is like, if you guys ever used IRC back in the day, it was like, it's like IRC on steroids, basically. Oh, so it's not too late there. Yeah, sorry about the audio. If anybody knows of a way to prevent Teams from screwing with your audio device levels, let me know, because I like Teams, but it bothers me because it changes it, and then I forget that it changes it until I'm either recording something, and then I find out the levels are too low, and I have to re-record or try to fix it in Audacity. Or I'm on a stream and I find out and I have to fix it. Theo says he's got an Ender 3 with the silent board and easy ABL setup. Problem is getting that first layer is not even over the bed, even though I see a perfect result in Octoprint's bed visualizer. Well, my first question then would be, did you update your starting G code? Like, do you have the G28, G28Z, and then G29? Because the most common thing people do is they forget to use the G or update their G code, and or they use old G code that was sliced before they put the ABL kit on. So they're using code that worked, but it's not going to engage the ABL. The one thing you should do is check to see if the Z axis is moving while it's printing. Because if the ABL system is on and engaged and like it's actively using it, you should see, or just put your finger on the coupler, you should see or feel it making very small adjustments as it's printing. I wish I could say I've had that issue where like it probes fine and then it doesn't level. But you get an uneven first layer. I would say here, this pops in my head once in a while when people have this issue. One time, I take that back. One time I had this issue where it looked like the ABL was not working. And I chased it down for 2 weeks. And the thing that actually was causing the issue is the two bolts holding the hot end. This is on a Creality CR10S4. The two bolts holding the hot end were loose. So the hot end was moving ever so slightly back and forth while the printer was printing. So what happened was the sensor was solidly mounted. It was getting a good mesh. Because the hot end was wobbling about just enough, it made it look like the ABL wasn't working. So that's another thing you can check. I think the wife stole the dog. She might have. Like, if that's the system's pretty simple. Like, as long as you have the G29, it should be on. And I'm assuming you're using our firmware. If you're not, I would check and see. I'm assuming you said silent board, and that's usually what people call the Creality board. That's got the 2208s. I would recommend double checking your firmware settings, reset EEPROM, just kind of walk back through the steps of doing the firmware and the software side of things, and run an M48 test to make sure you're actually getting good result. Basically, if M48 spits out a good result, meaning 0.01 or lower, then you can rule out the sensor having an issue or calibration being a problem, and then you can go from there. Robbie Mac, oh nice, you got your LED cube done. Yeah, I did. That's it right here. Whee! Don't build one of these unless you have a ton of time. I've also had no caffeine today, if you can't tell. Roscoe's got to go walk the dog. Have fun. I'm sure your dog will be happy. Gary Wilkins asks, start and end G code. Which start and end code would you use, Cura's or Octoprints? It's up to you. I don't know what either of those are off the top of my head. I'll show you guys what I use on S3D if you want. If you want to see my code here. They're all my machines run the same start and stop code. So this start code is the EasyABL one that's on our website. And then I have You can see here I have some old, I don't use this anymore. I can actually take that off. But I just have M104S0 that'll turn off the extruder, M140S0 that turns off the bed, and then I have G1X0 Y230 F1000. This is on Ender 3. You could, if you want a simpler one, you could just do a G28XY. But what this does is this moves the X all the way to the left, and it pushes the bed all the way forward, so the parts push forward to me. You could do, like, if you had a CR10, you could change the Y value to like 290. If you have a smaller printer, you could change it to whatever your Y's max size is. But that's G1X0Y230F1000. So that tells the printer to move to the X0 to Y230 position at a feed rate of 1,000. And then I have M84 to disable the motors, and then I have a M106S0 to then disable the fan. So that's all I have. So you turn off the extruder, turn off the bed, move the bed forward, disable the motors, and then turn the fan off. So that's all I have for my ending code here. Can I post it in chat? Oh, I'm going to have to send it. I'm sending it line by line. Hang on. I was able to get it in without anybody interrupting me. So that's my ending code right there. If anybody wants to use that. That's what I use on my machines. So your G code is really, your ending code and your starting code is what you want it to be. Now the only exception to that is if you do have our Easy ABL, I highly recommend you use our starting code. But if you know what you're doing and know the commands, you can then modify it and switch it up to your liking. But it's really what you want it to be. You know, like some people like to home X and Y after their print's done. I like to push the bed forward, so the bed's all the way forward when I go to take the print off. That way I'm not pulling the bed forward. It's really your personal preference. So let's see here. Oh, sorry guys. I'm sorry I'm yawning so much. I am out of, I just fell. Oh, my hawk. I am out of energy drinks. I have not had a chance to get any more. I never use well, let me see. I don't think I use Octoprint's ending and starting code. I don't slice on my pies. I always use my computer. Let's see here. G-code scripts. So all I have, so this is all I have in mind, and this is also on our Easy Pie because I use the same stuff I sell our customers. Because if I didn't, I'd feel like I'm a hypocrite. So this is what I have here. I had these in here. So this is like remnants from when I used to have different power control, but I don't need that anyways. So I'm going to go ahead and update that. But so I have, before a print job starts, I have a G28, so the printer's home before it starts to heat. So this executes before your G-code starts getting sent to the printer. So as soon as you hit print, Octoprint will execute whatever in here, and then it'll execute your files. So like it says here, anything you hear will be executed before any lines in your files. And then here, anything you put here will be executed after any lines in your files. So I just have M117 here, print completed. So this M117 is a command to display a text string. Oh, it's my printer making noise. This is, it just does a text string. So it'll say print complete on my LCD. Now I have here, after a job's canceled, I do an M84, disable heaters, disable hot embeds, fan, and then I have it print M117 print canceled on the LCD, and then it moves Z up 10. And this is set in the positioning mode for absolute and relative. And the same thing for pause here. I have the same thing. So if I pause a print from Octoprint, I have it print pause on the LCD, move Z up 10, and then I have it resume and move it back down 10. So That's how I roll on Octoprint. Ben Brady, Tim, you're too young to be going bald. Well, if you think I'm bad, you should see my one brother. He's at the point where you should just shave it because it's that bad. And he's 2 years younger than me. My wife calls it the Prince William. I'm actually kind of looking forward to, like, if it does go all the way bald, I'm just going to shave it because then I don't have to spend money on haircuts. I'm just saying. I would just leave the beard and just shave the head. I don't know how I'd look. I feel like I should Photoshop that. But all right, we've been going for an hour here. I was hemming and hawing about doing a video while I'm working on this, but I'm going to be like all over the place too much where a stream's going to interfere me actually getting that job done. So I have sitting here in the box, in terms of new machines, I've got the Kingroom K3PS. I've got the Anycubic i3 Mega X, which is their larger version. And I've also got an ANET resin printer they sent me. I should probably do that. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow because it'll be relatively quick, hopefully. And now I just jinxed myself. And then I also have the Sunlu S8. So how about tomorrow we do the ANET one because they did send it to me for a review. I'd like to take a look at it because I have, aside from one, I think it's a frozen machine, I have all Anycubics, and I've been really happy with Anycubics, but I'm really curious to see, because ANET's been bringing their build quality up, I'm really curious to see how they did on the resin side, because I'm actually going to be diving into resin a lot more. No, not literally, I'm not like that guy that poured it all over his leg, but figuratively, diving into resin more, since we have a bunch of machines here, and I actually built like an enclosure that I got to finish assembly, or got all the panels cut and everything. To put the resin machines in with an exhaust to keep that enclosure under negative pressure, so it's always pulling air in from the room, and then pushing it outside so all the fumes go out there. So, all right. So, does anybody have any other questions here? Go to bed. It's only 3 o'clock, man. I gotta power through it. You guys like my old man cardigan? I pulled this out of the closet. It's starting to get cold here now. I do have, since it's, I'm at work, do have a TH3D polo on underneath here. Yeah, I think we'll do the resin printer tomorrow. So I'm gonna say probably around like 3 o'clock Central Time, because I do have some meetings and stuff tomorrow. Let me pull up my calendar here. I thought Outlook was already open, but apparently I closed it. I got an i9 and 64 gigs of RAM, and Outlook still takes like 30 seconds to load. Come on. What do I have? So I've got a meeting until 1:30 tomorrow. So yeah, I'm assuming that meeting might run longer, so I should be done around 2. So yeah, I'm gonna shoot for 3 o'clock tomorrow. So I'm gonna schedule on the channel for 3 o'clock. So we'll be taking a look at one of ANET's resin printers tomorrow at 3 o'clock Central Time. Theo says, your name sounds Dutch. It's because it is. It is. And I'm told that it was originally spelled Hoagland, because it's pronounced Hoagland. People call it Hoogland because of the 2 O's. And the tale I was told is that when they immigrated over here through Ellis Island, they screwed it up and wrote H-O-O instead of H-O-A. And now it's H-O-O-G. So I'm a hoe. But yeah, it's Tim Hoagland, if you guys are ever. I don't care. People mispronounce it all the time. I don't care anymore. But just a fun fact, fun tidbit. So anyways, I hope you guys had fun. I do enjoy doing these streams. In the future, what I think, I'm going to sit down and figure out how to restructure this, because like teams, there's a guy that jumped in, but I couldn't hear his audio at all, so I'm assuming that it just messed up. So I think what I'm going to do is we'll put the Discord link in, and then people can jump in and post things in Discord, so that you can share links, you can share pictures, that kind of stuff, and that'll allow me to interact with you guys a little bit more, and I'll put that down in the video description. So do you sell any buttons to add to Octoprint for lazy customers? What buttons? Like a button that goes on the GPIO pins? I could see that. I could see an application for having buttons. That'd be nice where you just like put a button on and be like start print. Boop. Ooh, that'd be cool. Think about it. If you're doing a ton of prints over and over again, you clear the printer, you press a button, and then it just reprints the last file that was loaded. That'd be kind of cool. You got my brainstorming here, Robert. Ooh. You know what I could even do? So these outlets that we're working on, so where we're at on these, firmware's been sent to the supplier that's doing all the manufacturing stuff for us. So I got 20 coming in that are fully branded and everything to do a final test on. And then we're pushing ahead with 500 units. So, but Tasmota has a feature where you could assign functions to this. Like if your outlet's right by your printer, I could have like a single press just be on or off, or like a press could then hook into Octoprint and like restart the print. Like you can program additional functions to the one button that's already on here. So, but to be clear, just in case you guys haven't seen these or wondering about them, so these are meant to be a 100% local controlled solution, meaning there's no Chinese software to download on your phone, there's no Google software to download, there's no Amazon software to download. You literally plug this in, it broadcasts its own network, you connect to that with your phone or your computer, you punch in your Wi-Fi info, and then it connects to your network. And it's 100% local. I don't have any access to it. TH3D doesn't have any access to it. It's all local on your network. Now, if you have something like Home Assistant, you could integrate these with Home Assistant to then link through Google Home. And I believe Tasmota has some. I don't have any Alexas anymore. But I was looking through the configuration. I think they have like native Alexa integration. But the point of these is a locally controlled, no Chinese software plug that interfaces with Octoprint directly. And they do have a web interface. So you can hit the IP address and manually toggle it on and off. But I use these two. I have 3 of these already plugged in and being in use here for different things. I have 2 on printers. Actually, I have 1 in my garage controlling an amplifier, and these integrate with Home Assistant. So if you guys have ever messed with Home Assistant, these work natively with them. There's no trying to flash with like Tuya Convert and all that other stuff. It comes with Tasmota. You can put regular Tasmota on it too, and I even have the templates on the source code. So if you want to switch over to regular Tasmota instead of our slightly modified one, like this is the Tasmota is not as modified as like our Marlin firmware is from stock, but you can run just out of the box Tasmota on them. So it'd be neat. So the problem with doing something that's like Google integrated is then you have to have a cloud component. Whereas if you have something like I'm really heavily into home automation stuff. I got off the shelf stuff I bought and modded. I've got stuff I've built, 3D printed cases like the LED. There's LEDs on my printer shelf. That's all DIY, with 3D printed housings and everything for the things. My motorized blind that's right here, that's all DIY'd. But if you guys haven't messed with Home Assistant, it's a thing you can run on a Raspberry Pi. You can run on a computer. And think of it as a central point for all of your smart devices to talk to. Your Alexas, your Google Homes, your outlets, your lights, your sensors, pretty much, I'm not going to say anything, but a lot of things integrate with Home Assistant. And if it doesn't officially support it, there's a good chance that there's a third party in the community that made a plugin for Home Assistant to integrate with it. And the nice thing is you aggregate all your devices into Home Assistant, and then they have an integration that's $5 a month. It supports the project. It's Home Assistant is an open source project, and then it offers seamless integration with Google Home or Amazon Alexa. So instead of having to connect a million different apps and a million different logins to your Google account or your Alexa account, you integrate everything with Home Assistant and then just connect it to Home Assistant, and then Home Assistant will push all those devices. So that's how I have it here at home. Yeah, I'll think about that too. I mean, making a little GPIO button kit wouldn't be that hard. Could do a PCB or could even just do switches with a wire. And then like add support for that. Could even do a plugin. I'm willing to bet someone already made a plugin for buttons on the GPIO. It's actually not that hard, man. Pick up some DuPont connectors, solder the ends to a switch. Any update on the replacement switches for a CR6 SE? That's on my plate for tomorrow. It's out there. This is on my plate for the rest of today. Yeah. Robert Matthew, check out Auto Drop 3D. They're working on something like that. Yeah, autodrop3d.com. Check them out here. Home Assistant. If you just Google Home Assistant, it should come up. It's home-assistant.io. You can run on a Raspberry Pi. You can run on a Pi 3, Pi 4. I would recommend going on a Pi 4 and buy a good quality SD card for it. Like if you're going to run Home Assistant on there. There's ones, I think Samsung calls them their Endurance series cards, but there's ones that are rated for high usage, and that's what you want. I run Home Assistant on an actual computer here. So, but the nice thing is you can start off on the Pi. You can export your backup from the Pi and then restore it to a computer. So you can start out on the Pi and then move over to a more powerful platform. A lot of guys run them on those Intel NUCs, if you've seen those, because they're very fast, they're small, and Home Assistant also works with Octoprint too. Home Assistant officially supports Octoprint, so you can integrate all your Octoprint integrations. Now, I thought about doing that, but we ended up using Octofarm to aggregate everything. But there's native integration for Octoprint with Home Assistant. And if you're someone that has like a couple of smart things, like just a few things, you'd be surprised what you can do with just like a couple of sensors. If you have security cameras, you can integrate those too. Like I use Blue Iris to use my cameras as motion sensors. And when the camera detects motion, it sends a signal to Home Assistant and tells it, turns that sensor on. That sensor, it's a virtual sensor. It's one of those things where you start, I would recommend start getting all the devices, getting things connected to your home, put in the switches, the bulbs, the outlets, that kind of stuff, whatever sensors you want. Get all the sensors in, and then you'll sit down one night and start thinking about what automations well, if this sensor detects motion, then I want this light to turn on, and then after 5 minutes, if there's no motion, turn that light off, that kind of thing. But I'm going on a tangent here, but hopefully I gave you guys something to look into. I love Home Assistant. They're great. And like I said, you can actually integrate Home Assistant with Google Home for free, but it's very kludgy. It's very temperamental, and it does work, but it'll stop working every couple months because you use like a development app through Google's Dev Center. To be completely honest, they have a thing. It's $5 a month. It goes towards supporting their development, and then you get to use their official Home Assistant integration with Google Home, and it works great. And on top of that, they give you a unique URL too, so you can access your Home Assistant installation outside of your house with no port forwarding. So that $5 a month right there, I'm sold. Like my only complaint is I wish I could prepay for a year or 2 years or 3, because I would just prepay because I'm staying with Home Assistant. I am 100% committed at this point. And I've been running it for 2 years now. I really like it. It's not been without its hiccups. It's open source, so there's going to be some hiccups and oddities, but it's very powerful and it's getting better every day. So I know you guys are nerds because you're sitting here watching me. So go download Home Assistant. If you got a spare Pi laying around, you can throw it on there. I would recommend it. Highly recommend it. I'm not using. Logan Rollins asking about my drones. I'm using all Spectrum stuff. I'm all using DSMX stuff. The DX6 for my tiny whoops, and I've got a DX9 for my big one, which I'm thinking about doing Crossfire. I'm thinking about getting a DJI setup for my big one, and doing a Crossfire to do kind of a long range cruiser setup, because my buddy got one and it's amazing. Anyways, I got a bunch of stuff I got to get to. It's 3:30, so I've been going for an hour and 15 minutes almost. So I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. I hope you guys learned something. And we'll have our next stream. These are Mondays and Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Central Time. And I'm going to call Joe tonight and bug him, Joe from Project R3D, because I want to get something officially done in terms of us having a Friday or Saturday stream. So anyways, I appreciate everybody stopped by. And as always, happy printing.